And the cancellation process was pretty much a nightmare. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and also give us a thumbs up if you find this video to be helpful. So in today's video, we are diving into my experience with T-Mobile's home internet service after having it for almost 2 years. And spoiler alert, we ended up canceling, and honestly, I don't feel bad about canceling, and I do have a lot to say about my experience. So let's get into it. Alright, so let me take you back to when we first got T-Mobile's home internet service. Everything seemed fine in the beginning, but there were definitely some red flags that we chose to ignore. The first being that the first tower that T-Mobile sent us was actually a refurbished unit, and we did not know until we tried to plug it up, tried to get the internet started, and we kept having all these difficulties. So we actually called them and we explained the situation that we just received our home internet tower, we plugged it in, and no matter where we plugged it, it would not work. And they kept trying to help us troubleshoot by saying, let's move it to this part of the house. Let's try to plug it into this type of outlet or this outlet in this part of the house or what have you. And after they pretty much helped us troubleshoot, we did the same thing that we had tried. The agent actually broke down and admitted that they sent us a refurbished tower. And not only did they send us a refurbished tower, but they see that we paid to make sure that we got a brand new tower. So why they sent a refurbished tower to us, I'm not even sure, but that's what happened. And so he put in for us to be sent a brand new tower. When we got the tower, it was actually great. We had pretty decent home internet. The only thing is we had to make sure that we sent the refurbished tower back to them so that we wouldn't get charged for having 2 home internet towers. So finally, when we got our new tower, everything worked, and we were paying about $50 a month, and for a while everything was pretty good. So fast forward to March of 2024, and that's when everything pretty much started to go downhill. So we started noticing that the internet was slowing down quite a bit. And not only was it slowing down quite a bit, but it began to stall a lot. And we'd had to end up unplugging the tower from the outlet, plugging it back in just to get a decent connection. We had called customer service a couple of times trying to figure out what we could do on our end. And also, it just became too much of a regular type of occasion where we always had to unplug and plug it back in. And not only that, it really became a nuisance. The thing about all of this is it really became an issue when we tried to start hybrid work. So some days we would go into the office and other days we would stay at home and try to work. And that's when it really became a huge issue for us because the connection was so weak or would stall to the point to where we couldn't even do any work. Matter of fact, when we would get up in the morning and try to connect around 7:30, the internet would not connect. We would call the provider to try to say, hey, this is what's happening. And they would always tell us, oh, well, we don't have any type of outage in your area. Everything is showing clear. Maybe if you unplug it and move it here and move it there, and if you bring your computer closer. We tried all of that. And each and every week when it was time for us to work from home, it was an issue. And we ended up having to go into the office, which really defeated the whole purpose of working hybrid in the first place. During this time, when we would try to reach out to the customer service individuals at T-Mobile's home internet, a lot of times we could tell that the agents were reading from a script. And honestly, they really weren't helpful at all. The internet was so spotty that we would have to end up going into the office, which was just chaotic on our end because all of a sudden you have to try to pack up your computer, pack up your notes, pack up everything that you are working on just to go into the office and set up for that day when it could have been avoided if the internet was working. It really became apparent that we might have to switch, not only because we could not work hybrid because the internet connection was not reliable, but also over the summer, which would be summer of 2024, it got even worse. And when I say it got even worse, I couldn't even watch TV in my room. And in my room, I do have an Apple TV. And I would start a show, and halfway through the show, it would freeze. And then the dreaded no internet connection message would come up. And the problem would be that the tower would say it's connected, and we would do everything of unplugging, plugging it back in, trying to adjust it here, adjust it there. But it really was just the market at that particular time was just oversaturated with T-Mobile home internet users in our area. And it slowed the network down completely. So at night, we already knew that between, let's say, 7:30 or 7 o'clock until about 10 o'clock the next day, internet would be spotty, meaning that if you wanted to watch TV, you would have to use your LTE, or you would just have to use your hotspot. And to me, that was the issue, because it's like, what am I paying $50 a month for having T-Mobile home internet if I have to use my LTE or my hotspot? I might as well just depend on that instead of home internet. So really considering that we could not use it anymore because our market was too saturated and the internet was too unreliable for simple things of watching TV, trying to play games on your phone, or just trying to enjoy the internet by being on different devices, and especially trying to work from home, we said, hey, we have to cancel T-Mobile and we have to try to find a more reliable internet service. And the cancellation process was pretty much a nightmare. And it was simply a nightmare because there were a lot of things that the people we talked to during the cancellation process didn't tell us from the jump. So when we called, we canceled, and they told us that we'd be charged for the month that we were canceling in because it was during the middle of a pay period, which was completely fine. But they never mentioned that we'd be charged for 2 more months afterwards. So I kept seeing these unexpected charges coming from my account. And when we called, no one could give us an answer as to why those 2 other charges were coming from my account. One person mentioned it was for the tower, but we told them that we turned back in the tower soon as we canceled. Another person mentioned that, it might have been for back pay of charges, but when they reviewed our account was up to date. And so what it initially showed on their end is that we should not have been charged for those 2 additional months, and nobody could give us any answer as to how we could get that money back or why we were even charged in the first place. So I began to do some research on my own, and I happened to stumble across a thread on Reddit where it was about T-Mobile and T-Mobile home internet service, and how allegedly, we'll put this in here, that particular company has a history of overcharging people after they have canceled. And it was really some scary stories on there. Somebody mentioned they had canceled at least a year ago, and every month they kept being charged. Somebody else mentioned that they were experiencing what we had experienced, but they were paying quite a lot more for what they had been being charged for. And I was like, okay, we have to try to stop this as soon as possible. And I might have to change my information that for the card I had on file, as well as kind of put my bank on notice saying like, hey, if this particular company tried to charge my card, they are not authorized, because based on those stories, I was not trying to have additional charges come out. So long story short, we had to call and call again, and they kept promising us that we would be able to speak to a supervisor, because by this time I'm upset. Everybody that we talked to who would be just, I guess, a non-supervisor agent would tell us, hey, you know, let's try to figure out this with just us two. And they could never give us an answer. And so now when I'm calling in, I'm asking directly for a supervisor. They kept saying, oh, well, we see that it's on your account to have a supervisor call you back. And till this day, we are still waiting for a supervisor to call us back. So I went back on Reddit, and according to Reddit, the easiest thing to do is to go inside the actual physical store to try to sort all of this out. In the end, we had to end up going into the store to get all of this straightened out. So my advice would be to anyone else who is planning to cancel their T-Mobile home internet service would be to go into the local store, take the tower with you, and make sure that you go ahead and see if they can zero out any type of charges that you might have and try to get it in writing, or just make sure that you take your car off file at that particular time for you not to be charged the next month. Matter of fact, before you even do that, if you have a car on file through the account services online, take your car off file right away. That way, if they do try to charge it, they don't have anything to charge, right? And if you need to make a final payment, you can make it at T-Mobile instead of having to have them potentially charge your card not once, but 2 to 3 more other times. In addition to that, it is important to note that once you do turn off your service, you will lose access to your account. So that's why I'm saying go ahead, take any type of card information you have off file through the internet portal, account portal, or what have you beforehand, so that if you do happen to get locked out of your account, they will not be able to charge your card anymore. And if you do have to pay anything, you can go into T-Mobile and pay it in person, which can be somewhat of a hassle for some people, but I would rather go inside the store and pay for whatever else I need to pay for and be done with it, instead of them having my card on file where they can just charge it whenever they get ready, or try to blame it on a system error or whatever. But would I recommend T-Mobile home internet service to anybody? Only if you are one of the first people in your area, or if you're looking for a cheaper alternative to internet service. If you don't mind paying $50 a month for your internet to possibly go in and out, then yes. If you know that you're only one of the first few people, like we were in our area, to have T-Mobile's own internet service, and you just want some inexpensive internet for the time being, then yes, I definitely say go ahead and try it out. And it's really not a bad service if you're only one of the few people. Now, once your market becomes saturated, then you might have some issues. For us, the price was good. We never really had an issue with T-Mobile when everything was working correct. However, once the connection began to be unreliable and we kept trying to troubleshoot and be patient with T-Mobile as they worked through everything, we just said, hey, we got to go. I hope this review helps anyone considering T-Mobile's home internet service. If you had a similar experience, or if you would like to share your thoughts, drop a comment below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more honest reviews. And thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one.